There's this joke about a pastor who had noticed some of the youth of the church getting a little too comfortable during worship. Some of the boys would be in the back with their feet kicked up on the pews in front of them. A couple of the girls would be in the corner taking selfies. But it was young Carl who really pushed him over the edge. When in the middle of worship, in the middle of the sermon, Carl took a big sip of his 7-Eleven Slurpee. Well, this was the last straw. After the service, the pastor lined up all the youth outside the wall of his office and said, by the time this day is through, each of us are going to have a little chat. So, of course, Carl was the first one called in. He sat down, silent, not wanting to say the wrong thing. The pastor sat behind his desk, staring at Carl and thinking, I need to shake these kids from their comfort. I need to remind them that God is always watching. So he leaned forward on his desk and said, Carl, where is God? Carl just stared at him, terrified. I'll ask you again, Carl, where is God? Carl jumped up, terrified, and ran out of the room. He turned to the other kids and said, I don't know what's going on, but I think they lost God, and they're trying to blame us. Thankfully, I've yet to meet any youth or child or adult who's quite as comfortable as the people in this story. But comfort doesn't always involve Slurpees or selfies. I remember when I first began seminary, somebody told me, as you enter your new ministry, you will need to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And I thought, well, comfort the afflicted, I understand. Provide pastoral care, help those in need, those who are hurting. But why would I want to afflict anybody? Why would I want to make anybody uncomfortable? Well, in the first reading we hear from the letter of James today. He warns us about what it means to become spiritually comfortable. James begins talking about how God gave us birth by the word of truth, so we would become a kind of first fruits of God's creatures. In a sense, he's saying that the message of the gospel, that through the message of the gospel, we are reborn as Christians. Then he tells us we are to welcome with meekness the implanted word that has the power to save our souls. So not only are Christians born out of the gospel, out of what it contains, but the gospel is actually a part of us. Everything Christ taught is at the heart of who we are. That's why this sacred time that we share together is so powerful. The hymns we sing, the words we pray, the sacraments that we celebrate, all speak directly to that part of us that's deep inside. But, there's always a stipulation, isn't there? But, James says, be doers of the word and not merely hearers who deceive themselves. He wants us to understand that the word is not just something we listen to, or he wants us to understand that if the word is something we just listen to, rather than something that causes us to take action in the world, we're simply fooling ourselves. And James has a great analogy for this, and I'm actually going to ask for a volunteer for this one to really bring this to life. So I didn't do a children's sermon today, so I'm sticking it in here. So is there anybody who feels brave enough to come up? May have to be on camera if that's okay. Any volunteers here? Any brave souls? All right. Come on up, Ray. All right. So, what's that?
I get water too.
Oh, I only have enough for me, but you can have some already drinking water. So, James says that if we're hearers of the word, we are like someone who looked into a mirror. So here you go, right? Okay. I feel like we're on one of these fashion makeover shows right now, which gives me a good idea. Hang on a second. I have an excellent piece of fashionable attire for you. So, here you go. Not only is this a fantastic hat, but it even has today's Bible reading from James printed on it. Now, take a look at yourself in the mirror, smile a little bit, make sure there's nothing in your teeth. Nothing in your teeth? Okay, listen, you keep looking like that, I'm going to have to give a sermon on vanity, and I don't want to. So, I have a pop quiz for you, Ray. What did verse 24 say? You don't know? Well, you were just looking at it. That's a good idea. Okay, well, hang on. We'll fix this. I'm going to give you another chance, because that wasn't really fair to me. I just sprung it on you. If you were out somewhere, and you wanted to make sure you looked all right, you wanted to look at yourself, but you didn't have a mirror, there's no reflective surfaces, what could you use to maybe get a picture of yourself, to get a view of yourself? Anybody out there know what's something we take that might... Oh, Trisha's waving it around. What do you think?
A phone.
A phone. Okay, that would be very helpful, right? So I'm going to give you a chance. And I know I criticized those kids in the joke who were taking selfies, but I'm going to have you take a selfie. So, okay. Make sure you get a nice close-up shot of your face, and feel free to take it. Get that awesome hat in there. All right, did you get it? Okay. All right, you're trying to get answers. Tell you what, I'll even get one of you too, okay? Let's see. Oh wait, no, I'm taking a selfie of me. Okay, here we go. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So, I'm going to quiz you again, but I will allow you a chance to use this. So, what does verse 24 say? Starts there. And verse 24 talks about those who are only hearers of the word. Let's see. So it starts right there. For, Daddy, what's it say?
They look at themselves and on going away immediately forget what they were like.
So, those who are the hearers, right, only, are the ones with the mirrors, and they immediately forget what they were like as soon as they leave that mirror. What if we applied that to us coming to church each week, right? If we only show up to church and this is all we do, and we go out there and we forget all about it, then that's it. It stops there. But when you make the Word, the things we learn, everything here, a part of your daily lives, it's like you're taking a snapshot of this moment. And when you live that out in your deeds and what you do, you're always focused on it. It's always with you. So you don't forget that. And it shows up in all your actions and in all you do. So Ray, thank you. You were an awesome help. And you can even keep the hat if you want. Now, I want to say this. I want to make it clear that James isn't saying we need to do good deeds to earn God's love or earn God's favor. Rather, those deeds come as a result of God's love for us and our faith in God. Reverend Art reminded me the other day of Psalm 23 that says, "My cup runneth over." We're given so much from God in the form of grace that we're literally overflowing with it. I once heard grace summed up in such a simple way. The person said, grace is simply doing something for someone else without expecting anything in return. They don't have to deserve your grace. They don't have to even want it. You're doing it because you've got this abundance of grace and you just need to share it with the world. So all these good deeds that we're doing for the world are being carried out by us, but they originate with God. James says every generous act of giving with every perfect gift is from above. He ends this passage telling us, religion that is pure and undefiled before God is like this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. We are to reject the false idols of the world like greed and power, he's trying to tell us, and help those in our society who need us most. Even Jesus had something to say about what defiles us and steers us away from living out our beliefs. In today's gospel reading, he explains to the Pharisees what makes us spiritually unclean. The things that defile us come from within, he tells them, like theft, murder, wickedness, envy, pride, and several others. And this reminded me of an old Cherokee story. A grandfather is teaching his grandson about life. And he says, a fight is going on inside me. It's a terrible fight. And it's between two wolves. One of them is evil. He's anger, envy, sorrow, greed, arrogance, resentment, lies, superiority, and ego. He continued, the other wolf is good. He is joy, peace, love, humility, kindness, empathy, generosity, truth, and faith. That same fight is going on inside you, he told the boy, and inside everybody else. The grandson thought about this for a moment and asked, well, which wolf wins? The grandpa said, the one you feed. I think both this story and the lesson from Jesus teach us the importance of recognizing the emotions that are inside us. Many of these emotions we instantly recognize as the ones that help us become hearers and doers of the word. Empathy, generosity, faith. What about the emotions we don't like so much? Have you ever been caught off guard by a sudden fit of anger? Or you felt resentment towards somebody you couldn't quite explain? My little niece Isabel one time found herself dealing with an unexpected bout of anger. And she wasn't sure what to make of it. When someone asked her what was wrong, she said, I don't know why my voice is acting like this. A favorite author of mine, Gregory Ellison, calls this the stranger within us. Over a period of several months, he felt a rage building up inside of him. No matter how hard he tried to ignore it, it would come out in snide comments to people that he met, or louder than usual tone of voice that he had with his loved ones. This stranger he knew as rage would call to him, I'm leasing a flat down below. Come on and visit sometime. Well, finally, he decided to meet that stranger face to face. Ellison poetically recounts his experience as he stared at himself in front of a mirror and went to that place where rage resided. He writes, rage slams the door. I kick it in, but just before I step in and examine his house, I calm my nerves, internal flames to douse. On one hand, I feel so far from home. On the other, I'm not alone. The bolt turns. That sucker locked me in. Now I'm imprisoned from within. On a centered table, light radiates. And now I feel so far from hate. His home is my home. Purity there. Rage untainted is full of care. No varnish to cover blemished wood reminds me that life's cracks are fully good. Rage no longer stranger, but friend. His creative fire now burns within. I Love that line of his. Rage untainted is full of care. Ellison has this epiphany when he finally faces the part of himself he's been trying so hard to ignore. In order to create free and open space for the strangers among us, he says, we must first be radically hospitable to ourselves. I offer up this story because it reminds me, and it acts as a reminder, that everything we need to become doers of the word is already in us. Jesus was correct in warning about the things that corrupt from within. But there are gray areas. Some of the emotions we sometimes define as bad can inspire us to fight for those most in need if we channel them properly. The Apostle Paul wrote to the Ephesians, "Be angry, but do not sin." Even he realized anger isn't necessarily a bad thing if used properly. Now, I can't say if there's a wolf in me I'm supposed to feed, but I do believe there's the word. The implanted word, as James put it, that has the power to save souls. We carry it right here. Let that be what guides you. Let that be what drives you. It'd be so easy to come here, feel good, and go home. But we're called to look deep inside ourselves, where the word lives, and ask who we're pushed to be as a result of it. Writer Brett McCracken said, "Healthy faith doesn't just celebrate you as you are, but relentlessly molds you and refines you into the likeness of Christ, which is a beautiful but necessarily uncomfortable process." If we're willing to push each other whenever our faith gets a little stale, then maybe we can use our discomfort to bring comfort to a world that so desperately needs it. Amen.
Amen.